Welcome to NAB 2018. We're here in the LiveU booth. The show is closing. It's about 5 p.m. here, Pacific time. And this is the sports show, as we have affectionately titled it. And what better way to start sports than with the NFL, America's #1 sport. I'm here with Chris Evans, Chad Freeman of the New York Jets media department. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. So what you guys are doing, and I have to bring this up right off the top. I'm a Cowboys fan. All right, so different conferences, so no direct rivalry, but I am a New Yorker. My father's a Jets fan, so we have that in common. But talk a little bit about what the New York Jets are doing as far as fan engagement. Chris, start with you guys.
I think first, what we try to do is bring our fans, as close to the team as possible, and that's why we use LiveU so much. Is we're trying to give our fans, experience that they're not going to get anywhere else. And whether it's in pregame or postgame, bringing inside the locker room or the huddles, to the speeches after the game, or live with Coach Bowles' press conference. We're trying to, provide our fans with content as quick as possible.
So I think the interesting thing for the NFL especially, the NFL has 2 broadcast partners on Sundays, and for the longest time it's just been those networks handling production. Why is it changing? Has every team jumped on board? Where has sort of the industry gone in the last 5 years when video has just become at the touch of a fingertip?
I think it's more of, just content generation. What could you provide your fan? How quickly you can provide it? And how interesting it is. What are you going to deliver that they can't see? With the broadcast partner. When you're watching a game, you're seeing the stuff on the field. Or before the game, you're hearing a bunch of analysts talk. We're trying to provide our fans with some kind of experience, whether it's inside a huddle. You're not going to see that anywhere else. After the game, when a player's giving his post-game speech, you're not going to see that anywhere else. So yeah, a lot of our stuff is centered around games, but then now you're at the point where you're in the off season, and we're trying to provide our fans with, exclusive content throughout the off season. We have the combine, we have, the owners meetings we just got done with. We have the draft. We do a lot of programming around those events, those tentpole events, to bring our fans inside those events, hear from the people they want to hear from, Coach Bowles, owner Christopher Johnson, GM Mike McCagnon, things like that we want to provide to them in a timely manner, as quick as possible, and pretty much live.
What's been the directive from the top down? Because the reality of it is people know who the New York Jets are. This content is not bringing awareness as to the fact that there's a football team that plays in East Rutherford, New Jersey, 8 times during the regular season. What has been the directive? Why the push towards this type of content and getting on these social channels?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is that whole fan engagement. It is about getting it out to the fans as quickly as possible and having them feel like they're a part of everything. I think that's been the biggest thing. That's really the push, is to have the fans feel like they can engage. They don't necessarily, if they can't get to the game, they can be there. They can feel like they're a part of it, especially when you're looking at the beginning of the game, when you're doing pregame. We can use the LiveU to get some of these pregame huddles that pulls the fan into the game and gets them psyched up, prepped, and ready for the game they're going to watch on the broadcast. So from top down, it really is about pulling the fan in, pulling them in, make them feel like they're part of game day.
So Chad, let's talk a little bit about the production elements and the production side of this. Before LiveU, what was it like to try and get this content out to the fan base of the New York Jets?
Well, for the most part, it was really almost impossible, because with the timeliness, like when I was talking about the pregame, that is almost impossible to do before a game if you didn't have LiveU. Because with LiveU, it comes back to our studio. We can take it, we can push it out to our social channels or wherever we want it to go, to our website, and that really is the immediacy that it gives. Before that, we wouldn't have the time to be able to do anything there. We've talked about doing things where we would shoot things pregame at a game, take the footage, try to go to a laptop and try to push it out the old way with the internet connection, and that's it. But by the time you get it done, by the time everything gets approved and gets actually to a point where it's going to go up on a site or out to a social channel, it's already too late, because now you're at that window where the game is getting too close, it's about to start, people aren't going to need to see that anymore, so.
Talk about workflow a little bit. We're dancing around it a little bit, but what does it look like how are you taking content and getting it from the camera, from the event, to, let's say, Facebook or YouTube or whatever different social channels?
Yeah,
the
amazing thing is, and this is something that Chris was starting to talk about, is like with some of these owners meetings or combine and stuff like that, where we're now taking the LiveUs, we'll take 2 of them and produce a show remotely. But rather than sending a whole crew out and having to do a whole show and all these people out to produce a show, it's really just him, maybe one other person, or a host, and a couple cameras with the LiveU. All of it gets sent back to our studio in Florham Park, and from there I can switch between the cameras because they stay in sync even though they're both streaming back. I can do lower thirds, we can do B-roll, we can add graphics, and that workflow has been great as far as like opening it up to more things you could do, more ways you could produce content than you could before because of the immediacy and the ease of access.
And what's been the response? I mean, what does the fan engagement look like for you guys?
I mean, it's all in the numbers. I mean, we see that, some of our highest viewed content is right after, like, games, specifically. Like Coach Bowles, we'll get about 50,000 views, just on a single press conference alone. And, that's not even including our mobile app, which, we're not even calculating. This is just social properties. This is just website views. Fans want to hear what happened right away. They don't want to wait. They don't want to wait for tomorrow. They don't want to wait to hear it later on tonight. They want to know right then and there. Coach comes up 10 minutes after the game is over, and it's our job to make sure it's going out there live. And then, we have other things like training camp. Our training camp content is, the most heavily viewed because, it's been so long since we've had football, in the off season that the minute it starts, fans want to know what's going on. And that's what we do. We just bring every waking moment of training camp to the fans.
So I think with the NFL, it's very interesting because a number of years ago, they started a network show where they looked at training camp. It was MTV's Real World brought to the NFL, and it got mixed results. The sports football purists didn't really care much for it. A lot of coaches didn't want that type of stuff in their locker room and on the field because they thought that it sort of took away from the purpose of what training camp is all about. And you've talked a lot now about these very special engagements that you're bringing to fans that were otherwise unavailable. What is there a fine line between get that camera out of my face, or are the players on board, are the coaches on board? Is this something that they embrace as well? What's sort of been the reaction to really going where cameras certainly never went before?
I think it's an adjustment. I think it's a learning process. I mean, at first, of course, you see a camera in somebody's face, they're like, whoa, wait a second. But I think, in our market, especially in New York, I mean, we fans want to know. I mean, they're used to it. They're number one media market in the world. So you're now just kind of using LiveU to sort of make that instantaneous. You don't normally have to wait. You could now bring it to them, and I think. These guys, hey, listen, they get paid a lot of money. They're used to it. Some guys love the spotlight. Guys want to come to New York because they want the spotlight. And then...
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to the personality. Like certain coaches and certain people are going to be a little bit more resistant to having the camera in their face, but some of them embrace it, especially the players. A lot of the players seem to really like that and get their name out there, get their brand out there, and work at all that from that angle. So for me, I think like when you talk about that line, that crossing that line, I think it really comes down to the individual, but there's like Chris said, they're so used to seeing that all the time, always having a camera right there, getting every moment that I don't think it's a big deal for them.
Now, what have been some of the more special things in your experience now that you've been able to bring fans that were just before unavailable? What are some highlight moments that you guys have had since you started using LiveU and having more available content?
I think some of those, pregame huddles are pretty good. To be in that huddle, to bring our fans exactly what's happening in that huddle right before the game. Some of the speeches after the game are really, great to hear because, it's the emotion, it's that raw feeling of, the big victory. It's mostly only after wins. You're kind of, that's what the fans want to see. They want to see it. They want to hear it. When we go to these tentpole events like, the draft and the owners meeting and stuff, the guests that we bring on, we've had, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and Adam Kaplan and, Steve Weiss, just recently, these guys are, they're catered, they're talking all about Jets. they see him on TV. They're talking everybody in the NFL. These moments are talking just about the Jets.
It's interesting because you share a stadium with another team, and they don't do nearly as much of this type of content as you. You know, what are you seeing around the league in terms of who's doing this type of stuff, who's not, and what effect it has?
There's about 16 teams, I think, now that currently have LiveU. I think everybody has their own unique kind of feel for what they do live, for live programming. And, we chose to do certain, cater to our fan engagement, with our shows or, with our, it's not necessarily even just shows. We also use LiveU to, for the ease of sending footage back,
right,
getting it to our, into our system, getting it, to our editors so they can work with it. So, it's...
But I think some of it is what you're saying before. It depends on the ownership from the top down, basically what they want. So if it's coming from them to get that out there as quickly as possible to engage with their fans and give them that access, then that's what, LiveU is able to provide more easily for us, where other teams, like the one we share the stadium with, just aren't really motivated that way. That's not the drive that's coming down from the top down, so they don't have to do as much of that. But from our perspective, I think we both feel that is a big advantage that like Jets fans have, to get access to the team, be able to get everything they need to stay up to speed with everything that goes on a daily basis, and you really can't beat the access, like the immediacy of it all, and that's what's really great.
So I think the next big question is, where is this going? There are some obvious holes, and fans of the NFL, I think the NFL is an interesting sport, right? Because there's only 16 football games a year. That's it. It's not 82 games of basketball or hockey. It's not 162 baseball games. You have this rabid fan base that looks forward to 17 consecutive Sundays. They get one off in the middle, and that's all the game content that you get. What is next, for the future of NFL off-field programming?
So to answer the first part, where is this going? With the digital age, most of it's social. It is a social platform. All of our social platforms see what we put out there. We try to cater Facebook Live, Periscope on Twitter, Instagram, everything that we could do. Our mobile app is huge. We try to cater a lot of fans to our mobile app. So, it's there. And then, of course, the website. This is a digital age. We all know that. We want to engage as many people as quickly as possible. And then, in fact, a lot of the stuff we do, we just did a half-hour off-season special with CBS for our off-season, with some of our off-season content. So, there is, the broadcast capability as well with it.
Yeah, I think, where it goes from here is wide open, and I think that's the beauty of it all, is that nobody really has the answer to where it's going to go from here. You know what I mean? But it's the idea of having all the options available to do all these different things and be creative about how you approach it. So from our perspective, I think we are always looking at a different way to innovate, a different way to do things, and by having different technologies that can all support that. Because every spot you look at, there's probably a place you can go and create new content and drive something new into this area or this space. And right now, I think there's just a lot of options, and it's kind of wide open.
I think one of the more interesting points, too, is that we already talked about how the NFL has very specific broadcast rights in terms of what goes on during the game. How limited are you by that? You talked about the fact that you do take a LiveU, let's say, into the locker room pregame and show, pregame huddle or something like that. Where right now is that line between what the NFL allows you to do and what you can't do? And then beyond that, do you think it'll change as this technology continues to roll out?
We still work within the broadcast window. You hour before, hour after. You just kind of have to be careful with that. The league is really working with teams and trying to, they're starting to now push highlights for, in-game highlights, to our social properties. So I think, as it develops, hopefully we get there, and then that's where LiveU is going to come, in handy, because it's going to allow us to do more content and stream more things live. But during the game, people are focused on the game. There's not much you're going to do at that point that's going to take them away. So you kind of work around the parameters of that. Whether it's pregame, postgame, and the best thing, one of the things we really haven't touched on is, to your point, there's only 16 games, 8 of them are home, 8 are away. So when we're on the road, LiveU is so instrumental because we never skip a beat. It's because at home, yes, it's a lot easier. You can get things done quicker. You're at your facility. You do things on the road. You're in a foreign environment. But LiveU just keeps that flow at the same pace, and it doesn't change.
So are there any additional things that you're doing on the road that have changed since you've integrated LiveU?
Well, I mean, there's definitely been different things we have tried as well. Like, we even had a post-game show that we did where we were having not only the LiveU set up in a tunnel within 15 minutes after a game ended, and that was a home game or away game, but we were also opening it up to fans to call in using the LiveU with the IFB being able to feed back through the earpiece into our talent to be able to hear the callers. So we were always just trying to figure out different ways, creative ways to come up with engaging with the fan like we were talking about before, and that was just another avenue we went down. It proved to be a little bit difficult to do that at every game, and we kind of backed off that because we wanted to increase the production value, really, because just setting up in a tunnel with one camera is very difficult because we're also like pulling players in, we're trying to get all this going, and we wanted to try to get other content out, like with the post-game stuff of all the media avails with the players and all those interviews, like the Tide Bowl press conference, stuff like that. We want to get that out there. So that's the reason we kind of stopped, but we're still thinking about going back in that direction at some point and opening it back up like that, because the amount of engagement, the amount of the fans seem to really like it is incredible, because they want to engage that quickly and that immediate, and that's what it provides.
I think that's interesting. I think really that is where sports, especially football, just because of the way that the fans are engaged in the sport, is going. That is definitely the direction. I want more behind the scenes. It's almost like people would rather consume the content off of the television, away from the general model that has been up until now, and get the behind the scenes, get the stuff that's different, get the long version. It's almost as if they get to pick their own journey and they're not being force-fed what the networks have been giving them, I mean, at this point, traditionally for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to give our fans things that they don't see on a normal basis. Interaction with high level analysts, and things that everybody's going to have something with Coach Bowles after the game. But we're doing one-on-ones with, for instance, after every game, our radio announcer Bob Wischusen, he'll go in and interview our starting quarterback. You're not going to get that anywhere else. And instantly, we're taking that interview via LiveU back to Florham Park, and they're instantly posting it so the fans can see it. You don't even have to wait for his press conference. You're already seeing what the quarterback said after that game, win or lose.
And that doesn't interfere with the NFL broadcast rules?
No, because that's part of the media period, so we're able to get our stuff out as soon as possible.
That's amazing. Now, Chris, you referenced before the show that you guys did. It was a 30-minute special on CBS. We have a 2-minute trailer from that show, so we're going to allow everybody to take a look at it. Chris, Chad, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Let's go, Jets.
The club has reportedly agreed to terms with cornerback Trumaine Johnson,
one of the biggest ticket free agents on the market.
The Jets turn to their old friend, Josh McCown.
He's kind of like a coach in uniform.
Teddy Bridgewater signs with the Jets.
He might end up being the best value in free agency.
Yeah.
Mike McCagnon, though, wasn't finished.
Also expected now to sign running back Isaiah Crowell.
He's another home run hitter.
It's Avery Williamson. Just got to New York, got signed, excited to go to work this fall.
Free agent receiver Terrell Pryor is signing with the Jets.
Everybody knows that the team is going in the right direction. Everyone's committed to that one goal.
And the kick is good!
Can't wait to step out on the field of MetLife for the first time in front of 80,000 fans.
Excited to, just do big things in this city.
Oh, the crowd got loose!
It is the team that's on the rise. There's not a better city in America to play in.
Everyone around the building, they're excited about the direction we're headed in.
The New York Jets at this point are not messing around. They're moving up from 6 to 3.
All we know is that the Jets were aggressive as hell.
Cali to New York, the Big Apple. Can't wait to get started.
It's intercepted. And he's going to score. The pass is intercepted by Morris Claiborne. New Jackson on 3. 1, 2, 3. New Jackson.
Can't wait to hear you guys bringing the noise next fall in MetLife.
I'm so happy to be a part of this organization and this team.
And he makes a great catch.
It's time to get to work. Get up.
One team.
One team. One goal. One goal.
Together.
Welcome back to the Sports Show here live from NAB 2018 at the LiveU booth in the Las Vegas Convention Center in very warm Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm here with Dave Belding, the LiveU Sports Sales Director, and Scott Relling, the President of L2 Productions. Guys, thanks for being here. We just heard from the New York Jets, but now we're going to take it back a step to the sports leagues that are not quite the NFL. And we're going to do a whole segment here on at-home production. Before we go any further, I think our viewers at home need to know what at-home production actually is. So let's start right there at the top. Talk to us a little bit about at-home production, what it is. I don't know who wants to take this.
Well, I'll start out. So at-home production, there's several versions of it. It's called REMI home run production, but it's a concept of keeping your primary production staff and equipment at home at a centralized location and only sending out the bare necessities. In our case, it's the cameras and our backpack transmitters. So that saves you on travel expenses. It saves you on the cost of a production truck, satellite uplink. It also allows you to share crews to do back-to-back events, and Scott can expand on that because I know he's done it. You can save costs by only sending equipment and hiring local camera operators, for example. So it's really an affordable way to expand your reach for small production houses, universities, even some pro teams are doing a version of at-home production.
So, Scott, with that said, talk to us a little bit about L2. Give us a little bit of background on your company, and where were you guys, call it 3 years ago?
Yeah, so L2 is a kind of traditional production packager. We have trailers, trucks, fly pack systems, and we produce live events, primarily sports, a little bit of music, a little bit of corporate. 3 years ago, we were doing everything with the traditional model, where we would roll a trailer or a fly pack on site to a venue, crew on site, everything done on site, run cables, set up cameras, produce a live event out of the trailer or out of a fly pack. So that was 3 years ago. Fast forward to now, we're doing probably half of our events now with this at-home concept. So as Dave said, instead of having to roll production trucks or fly packs and crew out to the site, all we're sending out to the site are cameras and LiveU transmission units. The signals come back to the studio, and now we're producing live events primarily from the studio using that model.
Now, first of all, why did you get involved in it? When you first heard about it, were there any hesitations? What made you sort of take the leap?
Yeah, there were more than hesitations. We didn't believe it, honestly. It just seemed too good to be true. So we were very skeptical of it for a lot of reasons. Quality of the video signal, reliability of the connections, what are we going to do for comm, all kinds of different issues. But the reason we did it was because we had a couple of our larger clients whose whole goal was to do more events with the same amount of money. And so we recognized that this could be a way to do that. So we went ahead and took a dive into it, tested it out on a few events about a year ago with some rugby events, and it worked pretty much flawlessly right out of the gate. So then we went after it hard and fast, and we've been doing it ever since. From
a technical setup, when you did that first test event, we don't have to mention the client on air so they don't know they were the test dummy, but when you first did that test event, was it an all-in thing? Did you do just a couple cameras? What did you do with the audio? What were sort of the stages of the rollout?
It was all in. It was a 4-camera shoot for a professional rugby team in Austin, and we went full-blown with it. So 4 cameras, tested the comm, the remote comm solution, tested a live transmission after the program was switched, so dove right into it.
Now, Dave, there are some major organizations. Obviously, we just spoke with the New York Jets about how they're using LiveU. Now, they're not using LiveU during games because the teams don't own their broadcast, so it's not something that is going to be in play at the NFL level, but other sports, they do own their own broadcast rights. So how have some other major sporting teams kind of adopted this?
Well, there's several different versions. So we have a couple of universities that are doing just this. The University of Oklahoma has done several events. They're doing all their baseball games this year with it. Brandon actually did 2 golf tournaments. He might have done more, but he used 8 backpacks and 8 cameras and did a golf tournament. Brought everything back to Sooner Vision, cut the show, and pushed it out to their RSN. So it's how do you do a golf tournament without running cables? So that's a university. We have several professional teams that do this for, let's say, pregame shows. Maybe not a 4-camera shoot, but they're doing a version of at home. They're doing maybe 2 cameras. It's a version. It's a scaled-down version, but it's not the full-blown production. So is this a replacement for the big 53-foot truck in pro sports? Not today. But is it the way to allow small production houses or universities to cover sports that are not typically covered?
So let's talk tech a little bit, because I think that you talked about the fears to the point that you didn't even believe it. I think anyone who's listening to this who's involved in the sports production world, I myself do this, there's probably a couple red flags that immediately pop up, and as the expert, talk a little bit about that. Some of those things, tally lights, comms to your camera operators, bandwidth, which we talked about a little bit already, and then the big one is scoring. I mean, getting data out of scoreboards, that's only, this is a recent development that we've been able to kind of do this on the smaller scale. A lot of companies have popped up to allow that, but now you got to get that data off-site somewhere. So talk a little bit about those sort of top-level concerns that when I hear, I'm just going to plug in a camera, doesn't really solve it.
Yeah, so comm and tally, of course, is a big one. If you can't communicate with your camera operators, you can't produce a live event. So actually, Dave introduced us to a wonderful product called Unity Intercom. They developed this originally for the TV show PD Live, where they broadcast live from 8 different cities at a time. It's a wonderful product. It provides both comm and tally over IP. So they've built interfaces for a lot of the major switching solutions. So when we call a camera, and on the other end, it's an app for a phone. So other than a Clearcom belt pack, it's a phone with the same kind of technology. It lights up red when you're hot, so that's your tally. It's two-way communication. You can set up multiple channels. So that's the solution that we use for comm and tally, and it works great.
And then are you using this just over cellular?
We'll use Wi-Fi when we have it, but it works just fine over cellular, so it's whatever's available.
Yeah, now, I personally have used Unity as well. It's interesting because it's not a replacement, again, for a Clearcom system, but the depth that it has, because you can use it over cellular. A Clearcom system sometimes won't exactly work very well in a stadium, whereas Unity does that. Talk about, we talked earlier before the show, scoring. I mean, getting data out of a scoreboard is hard enough. Now you got to get it off-site. What have you guys done with that?
Yeah, so our engineer came up with a solution that basically sends data over IP. So we take an RS-232 feed out of the scoreboard system at the venue, whether that's Daktronics or OAS or whatever it might be, into a laptop, and then send that data just over hyperterminal, over IP, to a laptop back at the studio, which also houses our Scorebug software. And we route the data where it needs to go in the Scorebug, and so we're able to take data remotely over IP.
And then, of course, I'm sure everyone's sitting saying, well, I mean, certainly the announcers, how do you solve that problem? Do you still need an audio engineer and a board and headsets and all that stuff? I mean, how much am I saving it at home, or did you come up with another solution?
We did. So probably 85% of the at-home games that we do, our talent is in the studio with the crew. So they're basically calling the games off monitors. They see a multi-screen view, just like the director would sitting at a switcher. They see the program feed. And so, yeah, we're having talent sit with us at the studio. That's done a couple things. One is, again, we're not traveling those people, so there's cost savings. The other thing, and the American Athletic Conference would attest to this, it brands their shows because it's the same announcer team for each sport. So there's a cadence. They become more familiar with the teams, with the leagues, the storylines, and we think the shows are actually better because of that. Now, we can do it on site as well. We just embed the audio on one of the camera channels coming back over LiveU. But most of what we do, the talent is in the studio.
That's incredible. Dave, where is this going? Where do you see this going? Obviously, we've talked a lot now, and we've seen how it's been implemented, what you can do with it. But what's sort of the future here? You said it's not going to replace the 53-foot truck now.
Right. Well, yeah, it's growing organically. Sorry, I have a bit of a throat issue. It's growing organically, and we see it growing more and more. We expect more universities to do it, to use this model to do more coverage and more events, more smaller production houses to grow the market and introduce smaller sports that are trying to get on the digital platforms that can't afford the traditional model. So it's really a way to push those smaller sports out to the digital platform. Everybody wants to be on a digital platform. Everybody wants their content out there. I'm sure there's a lot of sports leagues that are looking for a solution, and they can't afford the traditional solution. This is one.
So now that you bring up cost, Scott, let's talk about cost a little bit. You can name numbers if you want, but otherwise we could talk in percentages. What does at-home production allow you to cut in cost if we're talking about numbers?
It cuts it in half for us, almost consistently across the board on any event. It's half the cost structure when you figure travel, all the cost of rolling the equipment out to the venue, just everything about it. It cuts the cost structure in half.
And Dave, has that been sort of your experience across the board with the customers that are trying these types of methods?
Yeah, we've talked to some customers that are doing this. I won't name names, but there are customers that are doing that have shown greater than 50% reduction, depending on how they handle the production. And there's different ways to do it. So what we're seeing is as the technology improves, I think one of the biggest concerns that Scott had the experience early on, cellular technology, bonded cellular technology is viewed by the old school engineers as, hey, I don't want to touch it. I'm not going to give an example, but I have an example. I won't name names. I won't name names, but I talked to a gentleman that said, I'll never use bonded cellular 2 years ago. He's now using bonded cellular. The technology has come that far that he's now comfortable with it. A lot of that has to do with the HEVC that we rolled out. We showed last year. We are now shipping that and delivering that. That has wonderful benefits in being able to do high-quality transmission at lower bandwidth. Gives you that greater reliability. So that as the technology improves, we're going to see this grow. If I knew the end of it, if I had a crystal ball, I wouldn't be here.
And just for your company, we've talked about cost, how much it saves you. What has happened to your workflow? Do you have can you do 2 games at the same time now? What does the workflow sort of turn into back at home?
Yeah, so that in addition to cost savings, probably the biggest impact it's had on our business is it allowed us to scale a lot faster because we can take on more events in a given time frame. We had days last fall where we were doing 3 and 4 events in a day with the same system back at the studio because we had multiple sets of cameras and LiveU packs out in the field. We've done events where we did the American Athletic Conference Soccer Championship in Dallas, so we had one of our production trailers there for the soccer tournament, but in the morning we ingested a football game from South Carolina and did a live broadcast through the at-home model out of our production trailer. So it allows us to take on more events in a given time frame, right? Because we're not limited by the number of systems and crews we can get out on site. We get a lot more mileage out of our systems because we can do more events on those in the same amount of time.
Now, you're a Texas-based company. You just talked about an event that you did in South Carolina. How much travel were you doing before outside of what you would consider your regional area? And then what are you doing now? Are you looking to push more, become more of a national company using this? Or what's kind of the idea there?
Well, we've been national, so we travel all over the country to do events. But now there's less of the entire crew traveling and a lot more one person traveling. We travel out to the site with 1 person and 4 cases. So Southwest Airlines is our office. And it's usually 1 person from L2 that goes out on site. We hire the camera crew locally. Guy goes out with the cameras, sets up the cameras and the transmission units, and we hire a local crew. The rest of our team's back at the studio. So we're still traveling a lot, but it's only 1 person now, not the whole crew.
So interestingly, and this will be the last question for you, when you now are hiring these local camera operators who you're introducing to the system that you guys are using, what's been the response from these tech guys who are probably used to doing this the traditional way for years?
It takes a little bit of getting used to, especially the comm piece and just the idea of you're doing this elsewhere. It's just hard for people to get their head wrapped around it. But I tell you, once they get it, they love it because it's simpler. I mean, a typical cameraman after the gig's over are usually spending a couple hours helping strike equipment and rolling up cables and all the pack up, right? Now you basically put your camera in a case and you're out of there. So it takes some getting used to, but the guys that we have out there in the field that we're working with on doing this, they love it.
Well, Scott and Dave, thank you so much. Now, we're going to go from one really hot place, Las Vegas, over to Arizona because this show is being produced as an at-home production. And Mike, who's back in our control unit, is now going to walk us through how we're doing this. take us through the studio and let you see behind the scenes of an at-home production, and then we will be back with one more segment after this.
Hey guys, so I wanted to show you guys how this all works. Can you meet me on camera 4 here so we don't get that? So basically what you're seeing here is the LiveU LU2000s. We're taking in 4 cameras live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We're able to switch them, we're able to pan, we're able to zoom, we're able to have full control of the cameras remote. And they're all coming in. We're coming out of this box right here, SDI. We have 4 SDIs coming into our TriCaster. We have another unit here that we're actually using NDI to come out of. We have 2 cameras coming in NDI. And that allows us to switch, stream, bring up graphics, run B-roll, all remote. Normally we take a whole bunch of equipment and have to go set up a whole studio on location. But with LiveU, we're able to be here in Phoenix and run the whole show remote. After we take it into our TriCaster, switch and bring up all the graphics using all the LiveU equipment, we're able to stream back out using the LiveU Solo. We actually have a return feed going back to Las Vegas, so they're able to see what we're doing here. And in addition, we're going live on Facebook and live to live stream and a couple other streaming locations. So it's really an amazing technological feat to be able to be here, bring in the cameras with 0 delay. We've been up and running now for 2 days straight without any interruptions of these cameras coming in. It's really been an amazing experience to be here and being able to switch to show. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run a video a little bit more about sports and OTT.
People need to connect. 15 years ago, we saw that need and explored new ways for people to engage with content like never before. We create phenomenal and memorable experiences. That's why we're here. For our team members who work here, for our clients who we get to interact with on a daily basis, and most importantly, creating incredible experiences for our viewers. Streaming today has become commoditized. It seems everywhere you look, someone is launching a new streaming platform, and they're virtually indistinguishable. I think if you talk to any one of our customers, the first thing you're going to hear about is the customer support we provide. We've raised the bar in this industry by redefining what an immersive video streaming experience can be.
And welcome back to the LiveU booth here from NAB 2018. It's getting very quiet in here because the show floor is closed, but we roll on with the sports show. And I am here live right now with Janelle Fleming, who is the LiveU Sports Sales Manager, and Ben Gabrielson, who is the Director of Business Development for Stretch Internet.
Yes.
Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
We're taking it home. This is the 3rd segment in our
closing act
hour-long program. And we started with the New York Jets, who walked us through how they're using LiveU packs to bring fans content and get them engaged in ways that was never before possible. Then we talked to L2 Productions, who talked us through how they're sort of transforming their entire production model in terms of being able to do more games in a day, to do more events by doing at-home production. And now we get into segment number 3, because you can have all the greatest content in the world, but if you don't have a way to bring it to fans, and if you don't have a way to monetize it, then it's just content.
That's where we come in.
So Ben, yes, talk to us a little bit about what Stretch Internet is, what Stretch Internet does. What have you guys created?
Yeah, so that commercial probably gave a good overview of things, but essentially we're kind of we're a live streaming platform that does just that, gives you that distribution channel to your fans, your end users, whatever content obviously you're producing, and monetizing is the way we've really seen things pick up in terms of not only current clients, but also people that are interested in live streaming in general, people that have maybe been a content owner for a while and been streaming for a while, but looking for different ways to do it. That's where we come in, as we provide a platform that's very customizable, can really showcase their brand, gets their end users involved with social media, stuff like that. So we kind of create more of an experience around the events with that platform, and so we're kind of everything post-production from that end.
So you guys are an OTT. I mean, talk to us. What is an OTT?
Right. So there's several methods to get your content to live stream. So we know the normal social media website platforms. And, you know, Facebook Live, Periscope, Twitch, they have their place in the market. If you guys are looking to sort of brand yourself, this is an alternative. Create your own sort of portal, you know, throw in your own banner ads, collect that revenue yourself, and that's just, you know, this is where Stretch Internet comes in. Obviously, how does LiveU fit in? Well, we want to educate our customers because, you know, you have a unit, you may think about live streaming, but you really need the whole 360 view. So while we bring you guys the signals to get your content out, you got to be informed about how to monetize and really bring revenue and make it all count. So
talk to us about the Stretch workflow. I never heard of you before today, right? I mean, I did.
Yeah, right.
But I'm someone who hasn't.
Right, sure.
And I want to know, so how am I already know that I could just take my live stream and put it up on Facebook Live, and I'm already getting a lot of views. I know I'm engaging my fans. Where does Stretch come in? How does it work? How do I get my content into the platform?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Most of the people that come to us are just in that kind of same scenario. They're using like a Facebook Live or a YouTube, which is again great distribution channels. But kind of when you take that next step of really controlling your content, that's everything from again your branding, having more of a presence on the social side, monetizing it through a lot of different means, whether that's ads in your platform, in your portal itself, whether that's, you know, during the live events, we call them kind of dynamic advertising, whether it's putting your content behind a paywall because it's proprietary content, right? I mean, this is your content that's not going to be able to be seen anywhere else, so why not go ahead and monetize it and put it behind something that really is yours and you can create and control a little bit more. So that's one of the biggest benefits, especially for us, is we actually have a full-time live support team as well. So we are kind of the backbone behind our own platform even, which is very beneficial for us, but also the clients as well, to know that someone's proactively watching their events, making sure that their audio is doing great and there's not a lens cap on or something.
Signal and reliability are
exactly
working.
There you go. So we're kind of the end-to-end, I guess, version of that really allows you to have some peace of mind and control exactly what you're going to be streaming.
Now, I want to get into some specific use cases. Yeah. We've obviously been talking about sports. This is the sports panel. Let's say there's just a one-off event. It's a tournament. It only happens once a year. Does it make sense for me to use Stretch? Does the platform cater to that one-off event? You already talked about putting it behind the paywall, so I know I could charge now for this event. Is that a good use case?
Yeah, it's a great use case, and actually one that we've done very recently. We've had a couple of big tournaments. This being spring, baseball, softball is a really big. Those sports particularly are a lot of off-site type tournaments that go on. A lot of college teams will travel around to warmer climates like Florida and Arizona even to get some games in here with winter still kind of around in the east.
Never leaving.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a perfect scenario there where you can just put up a portal, obviously customize it for the tournament, put some passes, have an all tournament pass, a single day pass. A lot of people will get really creative with that to engage some more people and have a lot of different ways that people can interact with it and see it, because especially in that case, parents, fans, alumni, they're not traveling then. I mean, they probably would love to travel to Florida at that time of year, but they're not out there. So that's just the perfect way to see it. And of course, that's where LiveU comes in a lot too, is on the road, you're not quite sure what you're going to get from a production standpoint, especially internet. So that's where you guys are.
Yeah, the biggest hiccups in any sort of live stream environment is the internet going to be there? Is it going to be high quality, or am I going to lose viewers as the live stream goes on because it's hiccuping, it's pausing? I mean, we know it's just a form factor of doing live stream. So our units help that, and really it's giving you that reliability that you need in a really, if you're paying the amount of money you're paying to do a production, you're setting up a portal, you got to have it work. So that's where we fit in, and we're big fans of Stretch Internet because they're proactive with their customers, they're super responsive, and live streaming isn't as hard as you think it is. I mean, you look around here and you get a little intimidated because how many choices there are. There are booths. It's just like going into a grocery store and you have 15 different options of rice, and you just sort of like, whatever is the cheapest. There really is easy ways to do it, and we're hopefully educating some people who are thinking about it. And if there's any questions, obviously we're here to help. But yeah.
So talk about pricing, because obviously that's going to be a big question and concern. I mean, what's it going to cost me to put an event up? I've never done this before, or I might be a high school athletic league or conference or team, and we're on a fixed budget. I mean, how much more is this going to cost me to integrate? And then I guess the follow-up is, then what can those returns look like?
Yeah, so especially when we talk about the pay-per-view type format, we usually don't charge anything out of pocket. We'll either, and that we can get really creative with it, which is the best part about doing a pay-per-view type format, because you can do, we can do just a straight revenue share with the client. So kind of we both have some skin in the game. We're both there to market, help get word out about the events. But obviously, if a client or a partner or a content owner, I guess, really wants to keep a little bit more of that money that's driven from that revenue splits, can go more in their favor, and we'll do just kind of a little nominal fee, $100, something like that for an event. It depends, obviously, what you're going to be streaming, how long, what type of audience you're expecting, that kind of stuff. But typically, that's one of the main benefits is there's nothing out of pocket. So you're literally you're in the green right from the start. And obviously we'll take our cut just for the operations part of it. But that's kind of the best part of that. And then I'm sorry, what was your follow-up to that?
What about a school that is going to do this? They want it to be free for their users.
Oh, sure.
What's their cost?
Yeah.
And then what kind of returns can they expect?
Yeah, so the way we run things in terms of returns is we give all ad inventory to our clients. So we kind of just give them pockets throughout the portal, like I said, you can obviously during the live stream, play a quick commercial. We have some built-in pre-roll video that you can just automatically run through the system that you don't even have to physically, fire from on site. So there's a ton of ways to generate revenue. Obviously, because we don't interject our own in there and we give you all that inventory, 100% of that revenue is the clients to keep in that case. And then, in terms of free to view, obviously, again, depends on what you're doing. The more, our hard cost, honestly, is just the bandwidth side, having the humans that support it. So, if you're going to have 100 events, let's say you're a university, we can be pretty aggressive in that case of just a per event type thing that we can arrange. So it just depends on the volume of things. But you're looking at somewhere around $50, $75 per event kind of thing. So
it's very
affordable. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Especially again, if you take into account the fact that you can take all of that inventory money, not only pay for it, but also generate this money to put back into your production maybe and make it a multi-camera stream next time because you're generating this type of revenue.
Now, we've been talking about ads throughout this segment. Obviously, you've made it clear that if you have your own advertising that you're selling, if I'm a school and there's Under Armour sponsoring our conference, we can put Under Armour ads on those games. What if it's a smaller organization, you don't have an ad sales team? What kind of dynamic ads can be run during the games that are going to bring revenue back to the school organization? Yeah, so right now we work with it's about 550 colleges and universities on that side of things. So, everything from D1 down to D3, and obviously that's kind of what you're alluding to. There's like the D3 school. They'll do a lot of just local kind of companies. Honestly, some of them do some self-promotional stuff. They'll plug their big homecoming game or things going on around campus. They'll even the admin or the campus side of things will get involved and say, hey, we'll give you this 30-second spot during the football game to plug the new musical or whatever it is kind of coming up. So there's a lot of ways that you can really play with it, and it's fun to see it from our side because of how creative some of those schools can be and have to be, honestly. Is there a dynamic style ad where it could be, kind of like when you're on YouTube and you're watching YouTube and an ad just comes up based on your browser history and YouTube's monetizing that for the content creators? Is there a similar thing with Stretch? You can get a lot of analytics. Google Analytics is actually what we use to where who's engaging with what on the portal. When you do maybe a pop-up ad or you put maybe even just like a little bug on your scoreboard or something like that, you can get pretty good analytics for who's clicking on what, who's going where. You can link them there. So we have a lot of people that will have an ad roll across or just at the bottom of the screen, and that will hyperlink over to the local bank that's sponsored or something like that. So you can get pretty good analytics with it too. Excellent. Now, of course, this is the sports show, But who else is using Stretch outside of that sports world?
Yeah, quite a few. We've seen a lot of growth. We kind of call that our traditional market, if you will, the college, university, athletic side. We've seen a lot of growth in sports in general outside of that too, doing some summer baseball professional leagues, some martial arts organizations are doing some tournaments around the country. But even branching off of that, we're doing a lot of beauty pageants. We're doing some Miss USA, Miss America stuff. I mean, that obviously you can see is a great example of somebody that has premium content, wants to stream it out, has a fan base, but also maybe wants to monetize it because, I mean, really, at the end of the day, all these people are charging someone to go in the door, right? So why not do it when it's even more convenient for them to be at home or not be on site for it? So that's the type of content that we're seeing really grow and reach out to us even about, hey, we've got this really cool content, like, how do we get how do we get it out in the best ways possible? OTT is a great example that we do that as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of different avenues now.
And what happens to events in the archive side when they're done? I mean, how does this, if I'm creating this brand through my Stretch Internet portal, what does it look like when it's all over? How do things get archived? What's happening there?
Yeah, so we do that all automatically. The best part about us being an end-to-end solution is we control our own CDN. All the servers are in-house. We own them. We operate them. We can, spin them up on the fly. We can decrease. So, like, that part is everything is recorded live during the event, and we can, as soon as the event's over, end it. Right there, you have not only an archive for someone to go back and watch, but something, maybe an MP4 that you want to just download and cut some highlights right away, tweet those out, stuff like that.
And how does LiveU sort of play into this whole space?
Right. So what sort of drew me to Stretch Internet is that not only do they create these portals and these ways for you to monetize your streaming content, they also help and recommend sort of solutions based on your budget for production. So if you think about it, a high school, maybe they don't have the big production budget for a big camera or a production switcher or whatnot. So they are very good at mentoring and influencing and how to use certain solutions based on what you're trying to do. So they have like really a 3-tiered solution that they do. So real low budget, maybe your phone you use a little mounted on a camera and then just stream it to your portal. And going through these 3 solutions, and he can talk about it more, we have a solution to get content out. So you're not just limited to the internet in a certain venue that you can get out of. Because like I said, reliability, quality, it's super important when it comes to live streaming. So you want a way to get out. But we understand budget conscious and we don't know what kind of revenue you're going to bring in when you do end up monetizing these things. So where I fit in is, both of us do a similar thing where we recommend ways to do this in a cost-effective manner. And, one of the first ones was one of our apps, LiVU Smart. So if you do have an iPhone and you want to bond maybe the available data in the network and whatever Wi-Fi is, you can use that to get to your portal. We have a LiveU graphics system that you can insert graphics from our web portal. And essentially you can add in lower thirds, maybe a scoreboard and that sort of thing. So we can help facilitate making it sort of elevate it from an iPhone to now it kind of looks like you put some effort into it. And
that's the key.
Yeah,
that's the key
exactly.
Right there. Just make it look like you have some
make it look like you've done this before.
Right.
And talk a little bit about those sort of 3 tiers and how that plays.
Yeah.
In terms of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, exactly. So we do a lot on the consultation side. Again, being kind of an end-to-end thing is we do a lot of the education part of it too. Is people again come to us with this great idea, this great content, and they just don't know how to do it. We can kind of take them through and say, all right, what type of venue are you looking at? What type of personnel are you going to have on site to run this? That kind of obviously questions give us a good hint as to where they might go with this production-wise. So yeah, we can do everything from a phone to a camera running into a laptop. You can have a hardware encoder on site. That's just kind of a plug-and-play type solution. So that's the best part about us, at least I think, is we're kind of a free agent in that space, and again, that's why we leave on people like LiveU.
We're agnostic when it comes to what you're using appliance-wise on site.
Yep.
We just want to make sure you're getting it out and it's going to a platform that people can get to easily and really make it a business.
I mean, talk about the connection here. How do I get my content from a LiveU onto the Stretch platform?
Sure. So our units have a hardware encoder built in, and you can feed out from any location using cellular bonded technology, which most of the viewers are probably pretty familiar with it. But it gets your content to a virtual server in the cloud. So essentially, it takes in the signal, decodes it, and will hand off either whatever CDN requirement is. So if it's a Stretch Internet, it's an RTMP stream off to their platform. So it's going directly to a hardened facility with really fat internet pipes that can get your feed to the platform reliably and really high quality. I mean, it's going to look really good. So
what's next? What's the next phase of Stretch?
Yeah, I mean,
what are you going to do?
OTT has been kind of the buzzword in general in live streaming, but certainly for us. I mean, we came out with our own developed custom OTT apps this past fall, and it was the results and the benefits and the feedback we got were even better than we imagined. We'll even take a school for an example, giving a Division III, Division II school a customized OTT platform to where they can log directly onto their Apple TV, their Roku, and just watch on their 60-inch TV from home. I mean, that's just where people want to watch it. I mean, that's where I want to watch it. It's cool to be able to. I mean, honestly, last night I was just on Apple TV scrolling around, and the Pac West is a client of ours, a Division II conference. They have their own Apple TV app, and when I put in the word PAC, PAC, nothing came up for Pac-12. The Pac West had their own Apple TV app. I just thought that was super cool. So that's definitely the future.
Yeah, and just to when you're feeding out a high quality signal and somebody has an OTT app, it's blowing up on a huge monitor. So quality then really counts.
That's big.
So if you think about looking on your phone, looking on your MacBook, there's some sacrifices that can be made in a production and a streaming output. When you're doing an app, it's got to look good. Because nobody's got a SD TV anymore. At least nobody here.
So where's that in the pipeline for you guys?
What's that now?
Where is that in the pipeline for what you guys are doing in terms of custom apps? That type of end user experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's here, it's available. We're doing it now. A lot of what we do with our partners, and the cool part is because we're again doing it all internally. This is all our own apps, does it design, everything. We're able to even offer them a lot of the times for very very little cost or even no cost to these people. It's more of a value add even to some extent as well. So yeah, if someone comes to us and says, I've got this beauty pageant, for instance, we can say, all right, well, we can put you on your custom platform, we can put you on Apple TV, we can put you on Roku, we can put you on Amazon Fire, all of these, to where they're now in the App Store. There's a Miss California app that you can just download, watch everything, the live, the on-demand. They're clipping highlights of the different segments of the show. So it's again going back to that experience piece that we're trying to offer people from that standpoint.
And final thoughts, where can we find more information?
Yeah, stretchinternet.com is the website. You probably don't want to go to my personal Twitter or Janelle's, as we found.
No,
but so at Stretch Internet, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Our blog is actually really, really cool. We've done a lot of posting in the last year, some really, really good just educational pieces in general of your checklist before you live stream and how to monetize. And so there's a lot on our blog that people should check out just to learn about live streaming.
Final thoughts?
No, I'm just excited to be here, and any questions, Ben and I, we have a lot of relationships with production people and different software, hardware, appliances, so we'll send you, we're agnostic when it comes to what you're using. We're just going to try and make it easy for you and reach out and ask questions.
Well, Janelle, Ben, thank you guys for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We'd like to thank all of our guests who joined us for the sports panel here live from NAB 2018. Day number 2, Tuesday of the Expo is over. We're signing off, and we will be back with 2 more days of live coverage continuing from the Convention Center here in Las Vegas. And who else? Who knows where we might go? Of course, with the LiveUs, we have the ability to go anywhere. So stay tuned. You'll see more. Thanks for watching. Jason Aron signing off. Goodbye.